We've got live images coming in now from Haifa, where Prime Minister Narendra Modi has arrived, and we've got just the right people to talk us through these visuals. He's flanked by Benjamin Netanyahu, who very graciously is accompanying the Prime Minister everywhere during his visit. And I want Colonel Pillai to explain the significance of the cemetery, the fact that, these Indian soldiers are actually heroes in Israel. So little is known about them. We're here today talking about their valor, but so little is known about them in India, and yet so much is known about them in Israel.
Absolutely. Even in our own country, we mistake the Teen Murti. If you remember, the Teen Murti, which is after which the Teen Murti Bhavan and the chalk is named, was actually recognized for these people. Like the Teen Murti statues, which is there, signifies the gallantry, and that was so much of the talk. They were felicitated by everyone for this raw courage that they showed there. And textbooks in Israel talk about this battle, about the Battle of Haifa. And the Baha'is remember Indians with a lot of gratitude. In fact, we must know that there are 2 million Baha'is out of 6 million worldwide who live in India, and with a lot of gratitude to Indians for what we did in their battle. But it seems to be like we all mistook it for the three monkeys, like you said, that see no evil, do no evil. We've always, this cemetery here, there are two parts. There's a Muslim cemetery and there's a Hindu cemetery where the Sikhs and the others. And this is it's one of the best kept cemeteries abroad in terms of Singh. And troops from the United Nations contingent of ours in Syria, which is commanded presently by an Indian general, Lieutenant General Menon, J. Menon, has provided the troops, Indian troops there for the contingent. So it's a great thing that Benjamin Netanyahu is also accompanying him and going there to honor.
The symbolism is very powerful.
Absolutely.
I want to go across now to Lieutenant General D.B. Shitetkar. He's joining us on this broadcast, former co-commander, military historian. General Shitetkar, welcome to India today. We're sitting back and celebrating today the heroes of Haifa, who led the last gallantry charge in modern warfare. And yet it is so ironical that while these heroes are remembered so fondly in Israel, before Mahesh Sharma, the Prime Minister, and the BJP started talking about this, so little was known about the Battle of Haifa here back at home.
Yeah. Firstly, thank you for calling me on this show. Secondly, I have been to Haifa, I have been to Israel, I have been from Haifa to Lebanon border, Syrian border. 2014, there was the effort to celebrate the Battle of Haifa at that place. However, things didn't materialize there. I would speak to you, with your permission, on a strategic issue. Battle of Haifa became a turning point on the existence of the Ottoman Empire. Number of assaults took place on that battle. A seaport, important one, the only communication link. Nobody could capture it. For 4, 5, 6 times they did. It is the Indian lancers, Mysore lancers and Jodhpur lancers. They went, they charged, they made a pincer division. I have studied this entire battle in 2003, 2004. Incidentally, we used to study the Arab-Israel war also. And that became a turning point. And within few years from this battle, the Mesopotamia, the Ottoman Empire disintegrated. It is surprising, for some reason, these battles were never highlighted. Maybe the impact of British Empire on India, and maybe the people of Indian origin and Indian itself, who are so deeply over-influenced by the Western thinking, we are forgetting our own history. You may recall, Mr. Rahul, when Mr. Netanyahu was welcoming the Prime Minister of India at the airport, he said, "We waited for you for 70 years. If we had been highlighting this point earlier, they would have known that Indians came there 100 years back, and Israel and all these new countries which have come up along the Mediterranean coast is only after the Battle of Haifa, after the disintegration of Ottoman Empire." So what a great contribution the Indians have done. All these small countries which have emerged, it was out of the Mesopotamian Empire. I'll not go into detail as to who was there, where they were. The point is, unfortunately, any nation which does not remember its own history, any nation which does not respect its war heroes, normally you will find we are always found wanting. Somebody else has to tell us about our greatness. I must compliment you, Mr. Rahul, and your channel. You took up the lead. I don't know how many channels are doing this sort of thing, but giving the running commentary, taking all these people whose ancestors have served. You have discovered them. I know how much effort would have taken, and you are asking them to narrate the things. It will benefit our young generation. And look at the
Make no
greatness. This is
mistake
where the
about that.
statesmanship comes.
If you don't
The
cherish
Prime
your
Minister of
military
Israel
history,
himself is a
you cannot be a great nation. And when I travel abroad, and all of us travel abroad, you see the manner in which they preserve their military history. We're seeing these live images from Haifa. The Prime Minister has arrived there, so I'll just stay silent for a moment as we soak in this guard of honor. Can you describe these images and explain the significance of what we're seeing? Who are these Indian troops we see there?
These troops are United Nations contingent, which is there and called the UNDOF, which is deployed in Israel right now. They pulled out of Syria actually, and they were there. And General Menon, who is again a guardsman and from our Brigade of Guards, who is there, he is commanding this, and they've been provided the troops for this Guard of Honor that is provided just now. And these
That is very interesting that the Guard of Honor is being supervised by Indian troops as well.
Absolutely, that's again God's grace. I must say that they were positioned there in Israel at this moment. There's no way Indian troops could have landed there. So they are actually deployed inside of Israel and in the Israel-Syria border. And they've been, in fact, our contingent commander, General Menon, there is responsible for getting the troops back into Syria. They pulled out of Syria when the trouble had started, and he had overseen its deployment. As usual, again, Indians have performed exceedingly well whenever they have been in combat situations.
And Benjamin Netanyahu understands the ethos of the armed forces. He's a former special forces officer himself, his brother,
Absolutely.
an Israeli military legend.
Yeah, he's a legend. He oversaw the only casualty in the Operation Entebbe was his elder brother, who, if it was one of the most daring raids ever, unimaginable. Again, outstanding significance. They landed in an alien territory in Uganda, took out their own people, and the only person lost was his elder brother. And he himself was a war wounded, he's a special forces guy, he was wounded in action. It was a short service, he left as a captain, and then he ran his own successful business. And he's been, and in fact, he's the longest serving prime minister, and he would be exceeding David Ben-Gurion's tenure. So he's also like military. The Israelis have conscription. It is compulsory military
and they
training
respect
for them.
their veterans.
They respect, and it is like you said. It's very important for us to cherish our military history. To be able to nourish, and where you value valor, courage, you find the bravest men. And in our tradition, it has always been such that we always valued chivalry, gallantry, and honor. These are things that you cherish, and you find the greatest, most honorable men in such cultures. So this is and the fact that a lot of these Israelis after their conscription come here to India.
Oh, absolutely, and they party here.
Yeah, they party here.
Let's just spend a moment looking at these images.
It's a defense attaché there.
Symbolism this visit has seen. The Prime Minister meeting Moshe Boy yesterday, the Prime Minister now going to the Haifa cemetery where Indians came to the rescue of Israelis. We're looking at how this is playing out in India, but think also of how this is playing out in Israel, where you remember once again how these gallantry Indian officers came to the rescue of the Israeli people when they needed it most.
It wouldn't be exactly Israeli, because Israel didn't exist then. It was about the British imperial plans and designs that was there. But definitely they came and rescued Abdul Baha, who was declared a traitor by the governor there, and today we have the largest Baha'i population. But civilizationally, if you look at it, we have two ancient races, the Jews, the Israeli and the Indians, and we have an affinity with them. And what you see here is a bonding of two ancient civilizations, actually, if you see. And if the tribes that were lost and the ones that came to India were always, you had the ones in, like I come from Kerala, where Cochin, they were actually given the status of a prince. Like in a town next to Kragnaro, they were allowed to collect taxes and everything. The Jews were allowed to collect taxes, and the Maharaja had given him a copper plate that allowed
What's
him to
he
collect
reading
taxes.
out? Can you tell us? Do you know?
This is just reading out the reading
let's
out.
listen if we can.
This is the history of the battle. They're just reading it out, the plaque made by our embassy there, reading out the gallantry, what exactly the action happened there, just commemorating that. It's a signpost which defines what is this Battle of Haifa all about. There are about 900 soldiers in the whole of Israel as we know it today, and not just in this place. There were many other battles fought in World War I and II subsequently that we have a lot of. So this is one of the great cemeteries that we have there. But this definitely qualifies as an epochal battle in sheer terms of the fact that it was just a horse cavalry that took on well-entrenched machine gun positions. It qualifies as one of the greatest battles of all time. Like I told you, it had all the ingredients. It had a little bit of religion in it. You rescued a religious leader. It was fought in a biblical land. and it had raw courage and gallantry, and then it set the course, like it led to the collapse of the Ottoman Empire, completely one of the most brutal empires, and then thereafter it opened the way for us Indians to be ready for our independence. We had our own officers because of this single battle. Our Indian officers led ably Indian men and soldiers into one of the greatest victories ever, unimaginable victory. It was
then I met the soldiers.
Yes, can we say hello?
They are here. Call them.
This is what is remarkable about Prime Minister Modi. We just heard him say that very casually, Ben, come, let's just meet our soldiers. He's now meeting the Indian contingent. This is the Blue Beret. They're serving for the United Nations in Israel.
UNDOF, yeah. It's in Israel and Syria, commanded by an Indian general.
And it's very interesting that he's there now. And what a moment this will be for all these soldiers, all these officers, to get an opportunity to shake hands with the Indian Prime Minister. This is truly, truly remarkable. And it's also probably something which protocol hadn't laid out, but just very casually he says, Ben, come, let's meet all the soldiers. And he's waving to them, master of his own ceremony, and he's waving to them, Colonel Pillai, and inviting them there.
Absolutely. What an honor for us to meet our own Prime Minister, and that to such a, in an alien land while serving there. To have, it's a great honor to be
I want to go
recognized.
across live to Haifa. Padmaja Joshi is joining us from there. Padmaja, Indian soldiers serving for the United Nations, getting an opportunity, a rare honor, an opportunity to meet the Indian Prime Minister. You come from a Fauji background yourself. This is the kind of gesture that just stays in the hearts not just of these soldiers, but for also everyone else watching on TV. This is what makes people in the military feel special, these small gestures, Padmaja. Come for a joint picture, please.
And an extremely moving ceremony there with the Prime Minister laying the wreath, Rahul. And, just the fact that this is a recognition of what our soldiers did several thousand kilometers away. It was a forgotten legend, and for a Prime Minister, 100 years later, on foreign soil to be recognizing it, he has reached out to the people who are living here, and now he is paying tribute to those who on foreign soil, had made the supreme sacrifice. And now actually the Prime Minister walking up, like you said, possibly not even a part of the protocol, walking up to the soldiers who are there with the UN and shaking their hand. An extremely, extremely moving ceremony. Also that plaque which has been dedicated to one of the officers who was leading the cavalry regiment at that time and also made the supreme sacrifice, Rahul.
What's the plan, Padmaja, immediately after this? Where does the Prime Minister go? He's with this, his visit at least publicly to Israel in some senses now drawing to a close?
Almost. So he's met the people. He has made a strong statement against terrorism. He has honored the fallen Indian soldier, and now he is going to talk business, and we're talking about the big bucks, Rahul. So there's going to be the CEO's conference, which he's going to be addressing next, and that's when all the business moguls really from Israel are going to be meeting with the Prime Minister. That's in about an hour and a half from now. So he'll be headed back from Haifa, and he's going to be at the round table, and a number of deals in various sectors which are going to be inked between the two sides. Again, the Prime Minister is going to make a strong pitch for investment in India. Every time he's been on foreign soil, he's spoken about how he's done away with red tapeism, the issue of GST, the uniform taxation. He brought it up yesterday, the economic reforms that he's ushered in the country over the last 3 years. All of that is going to be pitched to the businessmen and women here in Israel, and he'll be hoping to take back quite a few business commitments as well.
Colonel Pillai, this is the moment that people had been waiting for, the Prime Minister's visit to Haifa, and I want to introduce at this time Colonel Bhavani Singh. He's commanded the 61st Cavalry, the lone surviving cavalry regiment in the world right now, and for all cavalry officers, the Battle of Haifa is military legend. It's what you grow up reading, it's what stays with you. Colonel Bhavani Singh, describe to us, your feelings, your emotions as you see the Prime Minister pay homage to the Indian heroes of Haifa.
Well, as a commandant of the regiment which inherited the legacy of the state forces, Jodhpur, Mysore and Hyderabad Lancers, which physically took part in the Battle of Haifa, there could be no more a prouder moment than this. Words fail me. This battle has been forgotten. I'm glad it has come back to be remembered, and the ramifications of this battle actually reverberated at that time. It was the first time that Indian troops commanded by Indian officers actually were sent into battle and conducted themselves with credible bravery. Having won 2 military crosses and 2 IOMs, Indian Order of Merit, Lieutenant Sagat Singh and Major Dalpat Singh, who was the commandant of the Jodhpur Lancers, were awarded the military cross. Captain Aman Singh Bahadur and Dafadar Jor Singh were awarded the Indian Order of Merit. Couldn't be a prouder moment, couldn't be a better time. It is the 100th year for the commemoration of this battle, to have a Prime Minister there paying homage to a brave soldier.
Cavalry officer, and and I don't mean this with any disrespect, because the modern image of the cavalry, and many people who look at the army wonder whether we need a cavalry regiment at all. The fact is that here you had people with lances, with swords, spears, taking on artillery, machine guns. It's quite remarkable. I just sit back and imagine and say, how did these 3 regiments even manage to pull this off, Colonel Bhavani Singh?
I couldn't agree with you more. We went in as a cavalry regiment on horses, attacking, as you said, artillery, well entrenched, not only artillery but well entrenched artillery and machine guns into a defile. A lot has been spoken and talked about the Light Brigade in the Crimean War. This, to my mind, is a greater charge where we came back victorious.
And that's the difference, the charge of the Light Brigade ultimately ended in military defeat. It was a valiant charge, undoubtedly, but this is a charge of proportions similar to the charge of the Light Brigade, and a charge that actually ended in victory. And that's really where the greatness, General Shitetkar, of this military victory really lies.
Absolutely correct. We have given certain battlefield too much of glory in the Western world. I would request you to kindly consider, in First World War as well as in Second World War, wherever the so-called British Empire won the battle, it was due to the Indian contingents which were there. The soldiers were all Indian origin people. We never got the dues. Neither the Western powers thought of correct, nor our Indians. In fact, people in India itself have been saying, oh, it's a part of British Army. So what? They were born in India, they went for India, they came back to India. And even today, when we motivate our young generation, we tell them that remember the contribution made by our ancestors. Rightly just now said, charge of the Light Brigade. What was the outcome of that charge? Does anybody know? And here the contingent of 3 Lancers, Mysore, Hyderabad, Jodhpur, they turned the tide of the entire battle. They turned the tide of the entire battle, which could not have been won. And as I mentioned initially, it became the cause of disintegration of Ottoman Empire and birth of all these new nations where we are seeing the things today.
Okay, I'm going to leave it there. It's been a fascinating afternoon talking about the charge of the Indian Light Brigade, as it were. And it's so unfortunate that everyone in India knows about the charge of the Light Brigade, but so little is known about the real Indian heroes who not just charged but also won. And what a spectacular victory this was. I want to thank all our guests, Colonel Pillai, Lieutenant General Shitetkar, Colonel Bhavani Singh, Colonel Sodhi, this is a special moment for all of you, and I really appreciate you joining us on this broadcast. Thank you, gentlemen.